Before we get into it, a big thank you to today's sponsor, IoT Tech Expo Global, who are hosting their next free-to-attend conference in London between the 1st and 2nd of December. Welcome back to the 5V podcast. I'm Tom White. Today I'm joined by Dimitrios from AWS IoT and Shashank from Hitachi Vantara. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Tom.
You're very welcome. Just to kick off then, could you talk a little bit about your background, Dimitrios, and how you got into the IoT world?
Yeah, sure. So my background is in business. I studied business administration and I worked for 5 years in exports, exporting building materials in Middle East, North Africa, Balkans and other developing markets, and no technology at all. Then I did my MBA at the IE Business School and I changed career to tech. And I started my career in IoT with Vodafone Group IoT. And then I work with telcos like Telefonica, Sony Semiconductor. So how I say myself is like bridging the gap between the business side and the industry problems with technology and IoT. And now with AWS, I'm in the IoT specialist team of AWS, and I'm leading the go-to-market for industrial IoT for manufacturing and supply chain, trying to help manufacturers, like the companies that were working before, with their industry problems by using IoT and data.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And Shashank, how about yourself?
Well, interestingly, I have a similar background as Dimitrios. So I started in the mining industry, and I was managing the entire processing plant from a maintenance and operations perspective for the mining company. I worked there for 5 years on the shop floor, doing my hands dirty, in the mud, and you can imagine all those hard hat, wireless sort of stuff which I used to do, and I still miss it. And then again, similarly, did an MBA and then walked into the digital world. And when I walked into the digital world, I was a hardcore, shop floor guy who had really no idea about, all of these buzzwords we keep on saying, right? And for at that point of time, for me, infrastructure was actually physical infrastructure. I've never seen those servers, those virtual machines we talked about. So, and then I walked into the IT world, worked in Europe for 5 years, looking at energy and resources sector, and then moved here to UK, and then now I'm here with Hitachi. And with Hitachi, I lead the GTM and business development for energy and manufacturing customers for EMEA.
Excellent.
Yeah. By the way, just say that my first job was in mining in India.
Oh, is it?
Okay.
Doing exports from India to Europe for natural stones.
In fact, I was in India in iron ore mining as well. So yeah.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
It's interesting you should talk actually around coming at this from a business angle. I think we were talking off camera around, a lot of people think IoT is for techies, right? And I think it sounds like we've all come from a kind of business to IoT and not necessarily super technical into the IoT field, which is nice. Because I think for IoT to have the development that it does need in the world, people need to see it for more than just being a super techie thing. Would you agree?
Exactly. So what it helps is that since you have been there, done that, you've been on the shop floor, you really understand the challenges of the shop floor. Because if I was not there, I can always think about it, but when you're there, you've felt it, right? So when a critical breakdown happens, you can see the phones coming from the plant manager. You see the general manager calling you at 2 a.m. in the night, asking, Shashank, what has happened? Why the plant stopped? Why the production stopped? And you can feel that pressure, right? That you are the focal point at that point of time where everybody's looking, that the most critical asset of your entire value chain of your, let's say, mining, for example, from pit to the loading plant, it has completely stopped because it works at interlock, and everybody's looking at you. There are 1,000 people who in all those plants were just waiting for the plant to stop, and it's just because the machine which you were working on has failed. Now, when I've moved to the digital world, I can actually see that how this digital can actually help me, could have provided me all that informations, alerts and everything which we build right now to give me that early indication that breakdown was supposed to happen, and I could have prevented that. Most of the cases you can, most of the cases you cannot, but at least it gives you that the decision framework, or that that information available to you which you can use, and that's something you can, the bridge between the two worlds, right? That comes when you actually spend the life in both the worlds, and you can make the best out of it. That's what I believe. So yeah.
From what you said, I understand that IoT has helped you sleep. Because before IoT, you had to wake up in the night to go to see the machine, the problem. But now the data from the machine helps you even predict the problems and avoid. But yeah, I'm joking.
Not probably me, because I was still the shift in charge. I still had the night shift to do. But all the managers, definitely, they were sleeping a peaceful life because for them, they had the information available for them.
Yeah, but definitely agree. And I always make the point that IoT is about business and change. And I see in the industry, especially the last few years, that people who are not in technology or IoT, they feel that it's not their job to get involved with IoT. And that's why 4 years ago, I also started teaching as a professional for MBA students who are not related to technology or IoT. They are lawyers, they are marketeers, they are mechanical engineers or artists, and trying to explain them what is IoT, what are the benefits, the use cases, the challenges, and how to deal with the industry problems. So they can, if they know how to use IoT, then they can solve their problems in their industry. But we really need the business input. And also this is a big shift also from AWS. Now, the previous year we're focusing only on the IT departments and IT customers, like head of IT, developers. Now we are starting changing to whom we are talking about what, focusing on the business problems, industry trends. We are also recruiting industry experts. It's a big shift, I think, in the industry.
I completely agree. I think people talk about IoT today in a really technical sense, whereas in the future, I hope they'll talk about it as people used to with the internet, right? Yeah. People used to talk about the internet being that kind of techie computer thing, and now it's intertwined into everyone's lives. IoT will be the same. Yeah. It's simply a technology circle that improves life and enriches people's lives, right? So I'd love to talk about it from a business point of view because I think it crosses many different boundaries. Which leads me on really nicely to talk about the AWS ecosystem. So obviously we're here today with Hitachi Vantara, Dimitrios, you representing AWS IoT. Could you talk a little bit about that ecosystem, how it exists and what you do specifically there?
Yeah, so first of all, we think that working in a partner ecosystem is very important and a big priority for us, and we see also that the customers and the market are really embracing that. We are helping them to get access not only to the AWS services like artificial intelligence, IoT, cloud, edge computing, but also we help them get access to partners, from hardware partners to cloud platform partners or industry-focused partners like Hitachi Vantara. So we are really investing. We have more than hundreds partners in IoT and also in industrial IoT, from local system integrators, for example in UK, to global system integrators, but also for ISVs that are focusing on specific problems, and they have built everything on Amazon Web Services. So we see that you need to work together with other companies in order to solve the important problems of the customers. And only very few companies, I think they have, from the customer side, they have the technical skills to build everything themselves, bring the connectivity, the cloud, the services, the hardware, and build this. This is the minority of the market. The most need a full partner ecosystem, and I think this is a role also that AWS is playing, to not only give our services but also access to a broader ecosystem that is using AWS service, like Hitachi Vantara.
Yeah, excellent.
No, in fact, right now it's all about creating that ecosystem around, which can help you to solve these business challenges, right? So eventually we all want to work together to bring value to the customers. Now, can you not alone do it? Yes. Can we not alone do it? Yes. In fact, everybody can do it on their own. But the point is, are you bringing the best in everything? Because you can be jack of all trades, but you will not be the expert in that. And I think creating that ecosystem helps you to bring in the experts of everyone, right? So, I mean, if I want to create another AWS, I don't have 1,000 people who are working together in building the capability, the digital backbone which you are creating, right? And similarly, if AWS wants to create the industry expertise, you're not there in the manufacturing world for 110 years that you can bring in that that industrial expertise. Now, if you join hands together, we bring in the industry expertise or the domain knowledge which is really important to solve such business problems, and then obviously the digital backbone which has been built, something which is scalable for you to move and solve your problems. Is that's where the partnership and the ecosystem works. And then you need the connectivity, and then you need several other things. You need the hardware, the sensors which will go into enabling the machines to transmit that data. So you need an ecosystem of partners, especially in IoT for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think we've spoken about this on the podcast in the past.
Right.
And we go back to our earlier point. IoT is there to enable change in business.
Exactly.
So by having a set of experts in AWS and a lot of people within that organization, it means that you can then work for your end customers to do what you need to do without having to tackle that problem. And I think that's the beauty of IoT in a way, is because not only is it connecting objects and environments to the internet, but people are working well together in order to solve these problems, which is kind of a two-pronged way of looking at it. Goes on quite nicely to the next point, Shashank, around the state of Industry 4.0 at the moment, IIoT, and what you're doing at Hitachi within manufacturing. Could you explain a little bit about some of the processes and what it is that you're trying to tackle, especially with your relationship with AWS?
Well, this is a vast topic to talk about Industry 4.0, and especially in the manufacturing context. I mean, right now, whatever we're doing, obviously we ourselves are a very big manufacturing house in-house, and then obviously we, as Hitachi Vantara, we go outward also and work with our customers as well. Now, interestingly, if you look at what's happening in the industry for now, so probably if I ask you a question here, what do you see as the challenges for the manufacturer at this point of time? For example, in your experience, what manufacturers are facing? We'll talk about the rising energy costs, and we're talking about everybody is looking at, because of the supply chain disruptions, that how do you to solve those problems. But then we also see this paradigm shift happening in the industry as well. And let's take the example of automotives, right? So automotives till date were all a very big IC or internal combustion engines powerhouse, right? And now suddenly there's a move towards, they know, I mean, IC is still a cash cow for them, but they know that 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, they want to move away from that to EV. And now you don't have that capital that you go and you invest and you build a new EV plant. So the change for them is that you have to use the same plant, the same workforce, the same partner, the same assembly line probably, but to create an EV vehicle. So you have to repurpose your entire plant, which makes it flexible enough to have same products coming out of it. And that's a challenge which everybody's seeing, right? So manufacturers have realized that there's a shift happening in the consumers, there's a shift happening in the industry. So how do we cater to that? And many times we also see that, manufacturers are also now thinking that how do I move away from a product-centric business to more of a services-centric business, right? So now I'm not interested in just selling you a product, but I want that after that there's an after-sales service, and I continue getting engaged from you, and rather than giving you product there in a unit cost, I want to give it to you as a service. Like, all the problem's mine, you just take the product, use it, and I make the money, and which obviously from, let's say, numbers perspective helps you in improving your margins, improving your revenues, top lines and whatnot. Now all of that, addressing all of these challenges which we just talked about is all where Industry 4.0 is coming into. So when you're talking about repurposing your entire assembly line, you have to think about intelligent machines. You have to think about you make your entire assembly line as efficient as you can, so that it gives you enough capacity to fit in or to increase your production. I'll just put another example over here. So within Hitachi, we have Hitachi Energy, who's one of our sister company, and they're arguably the biggest manufacturer of phase 1 and 3-phase and single-phase transformers. And you won't believe, pre-COVID, the delivery time of one transformer, the lead time for it was 16 weeks, 16 to 18 weeks. Now it is 78 weeks.
Wow.
And so what's happening is that the utilities, they're ordering 6 years upfront of their demands now. So their order intake has increased massively, but the capacity is still the same. So now you have to look at in your plan for all the possibilities of how you can increase the capacities. And increasing capacity is not just in making your factory smart. You have to also look at your supply chain. So how do you make your supply chain more efficient? You have to also look at your resources. That how do you get in your resources, and resources are always a scarce commodity. So Industry 4.0 actually is helping you in enabling all of that. So smart machineries we talked about, smart supply chain. So that's where I see the role of Industry 4.0 coming, and that's what we have been doing with our customers in helping them in all of these things. So be it predictive maintenance, or be it improving your qualities, and especially at this point of time, how do I look at my energy, and how do I make sure that I'm as efficient as I can from my energy consumption perspective, and then looking at the supply chain and making supply chain more resilient, and bringing in tracking and tracing and everything as part of it to give you enough information to give you, let's say, I always call it as enough information for you to make those right decisions which are very well informed. That's what digital gives you, and it enables you to have all of that with you.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that with the varying sensors that can take place in an industrial context, when we look at sustainability, you can reduce energy costs by having a closer view actually on the ins and outs of the plant, of the machinery, of what things are doing at that specific time. But of course, this is kind of counterbalanced with the incredible difficult challenges that we've had from supply chain.
Right.
The example that you've used, was it 16 weeks to 78 weeks?
Yes, exactly.
In your view, when are we going to get past that? How will this evolve over the next few years? Is this just going to be the way it is? Are we ever going to get out of this bottleneck? When will it change?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of geopolitical factors also which are coming in, right? So nobody thought of there would be a war or a COVID or anything of that sort would happen. So those things have definitely have a play in there. But also, I mean, the after effect of wars, we have not thought of that. But yesterday I was watching a video which says many of these things comes from Russia only, right? So your fossil, and then we were talking about nanotechnology for semiconductors. 80% of it is coming from Russia and 20% from China. So if you take out 80% out of the equation, suddenly world seems very, very different to you, right?
Yeah.
So these challenges would persist, and there's no right answer that tomorrow you can probably build something else. And because these are industrials you're talking about, it won't you won't have a solution tomorrow, right? So, but all you can look at it is how you can make your production, your supply chain, at least yourself as resilient as you can. And it is always an ecosystem play, so you have to see your suppliers also doing that. And so you have to, like we say in the sustainability, right? So one company can, or let's say one effort from a company or an individual cannot change the climate, this whole phenomenon for you. It has to be a collective effort, not at a company level, not at a state level, but at the country's level, at the world's level, where you can actually look at it. And most probably this is what we have to do at this point of time, at a Europe level, or maybe at the world level to look at it.
The good thing is that now there is a technology which is quite mature, I think, right? That can help the manufacturers not to solve all the problems, but at least to become more efficient, or at the same time produce more or reduce the waste.
Yeah.
So they can deal with all these anomalies in the market or the challenges. And I'm glad we're partnering with Hitachi, that instead of someone waiting to build everything from zero, now that you have all the accelerators and the frameworks and the solutions, industrial IoT solutions, to help the manufacturers or industrial customers buy or use your solutions and start solving problems instead of building a smart machine for years, or trying to deploy production monitoring or predictive maintenance use cases for years. You can just help them in in few months or weeks start using technology and solving some of the problems and increasing efficiency or reducing a carbon footprint or reducing waste.
In fact, so solutions are available, but if I go back a step back, yes, you have accelerators available for you to accelerate your journey, but I think it starts a little back in actually identifying where to start your journey or where you want to achieve the vision, right? The vision itself, because many times we always go with the flow saying that, this is trending, let's do that. But, what I call it as identifying your problem, and most of the time manufacturers know their problem. The people on the shop floor knows their problem. It is also about acknowledging the problem.
In AWS, we call it working backwards from the customer. And this is how we always start. It's not only in AWS, it's in Amazon, right? Trying to understand what's the customer problem, the needs, and then think the solution and technology.
Well, I think you've mentioned that twice, haven't you? The problem on the shop floor. Which is a nice analogy, isn't it? It's about talking about the real life problem that's affecting the person there and then, rather than theorizing what could happen. And I guess the relationship with AWS enables you to go to market a lot quicker, because you're not starting from scratch, because you have experience, you have certain compliance, certain protocols, certain levels of ability in order to enact a solution. And is that, I assume, been a massive benefit for Hitachi Vantara?
No, yes, definitely. So, I think with AWS, and I think as Dimitri was saying, that we've used the capability which platform offers to build, and we call it as building blocks. So, building blocks of how do you start your journey. So, if you want to look at your maintenance, or if you're facing problems with the supply chain or quality, and I keep on talking about these big words, but we can go deep into it. But the point is, we have built all of these building blocks, the accelerators for you, for a manufacturer to start their journey on. And I think I touched this point that AWS gives the scalability, right? So you have a platform which is, and I assume that there's a huge investment already happening from AWS on this. So
it is.
Yes, in fact, so I take back the word assume. I confirm that there is a huge investment happening. So every now and then you have more services coming in, which helps you to make your solution more robust. So the platform's ready, and then obviously with our experiences of working with various other manufacturers, of having actually done it in an industrial setup for for ourselves, and then also for various other customers across the globe, then help us in accelerating that journey very, very quickly for them. So how I position it is that let's say the 60 or 70% of it is ready, which you can use, but then let's go back. What's your problem? What do you want to do? What's the root cause? How do I address the root cause? And then let's work towards in helping that. So let's not go with the flow, but let's go back, sit on the shop floor, look at all the problems, identify the ones you want to solve, and then move ahead.
And I guess also you're coming from a point of learning from other customers, learning from mistakes that have happened elsewhere when partnering with AWS, because it's not just the Hitachi partnership, there's several other partnerships, and so you've got use cases and the ability to kind of advance how quickly you can scale and fix some of the problems that you may be facing with your customers, right? Which is a lovely position to be in, and I guess leads on really nicely to talk about what the future is going to look like. We've spoken about some of the challenges for supply chain, some of the conflicts happening in the world right now that we would never have known were going to happen 5 years ago. What do you see it moving towards, Shashank? Where is smart manufacturing going? Big question.
No, in fact, it's a big question. So I think so. Digital is, I think, the intervention from digital, you can see that more often happening in our daily life as well as in industrial life as well. I'll quote a fact here. A rolling stock, a bogie of a passenger train, it has, at this point of time, 2.7 million lines of code, while 10 years back it has none.
And it was all by wire 10 years back.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So you can see that going forward, all your machines are going to become more sophisticated. It will have more layers of software coming on it, on top of it. and you'll have a lot of, and in fact, the manufacturers themselves, right? So you talk about the big manufacturers of the machines, and they're bringing a lot of automation, robotics, a lot of softwares themselves, which enables you to make your machine more smart, sensorized, and you can capture all of that information now. I mean, 10 years back, I mean, whenever when we go to our customers, we see with them two different set of machines which are there from last 25 years, and we call them as type 3 machines.
Okay.
That you'll have nightmares connecting to those machines, right?
Some could be 50 years old.
Yeah, some could be 50 years old, and then you think of a very different way of how do you connect them.
Yeah.
And then there are newly procured machines which are all sensorized, all new, all tech, which you can immediately use, get a lot of information out of it, and then you'll start building all of those use cases. So I think there is already I would say a cognizance in the manufacturing world where they know that going forward they want to leverage on these technologies, that this digital more. So machines becoming more smart, the culture's changing as well, and I think that is very, very important aspect, that digital will always be an enabler for you. You can have great digital things in your environment running, a lot of AI, ML, you can have a lot of algorithms. You can talk about a random forest and whatnot, running and analyzing all of your information, generating alerts. But then the culture is also very important, because at the end of the day, digital will give you the right information. But you have to go to the machine, stop it, do the maintenance, and then bring it on. And and if you keep on ignoring it, nobody can help you in that. So so that's what I'm saying. So digital's helping in you making yourself more smart. So smart factories, smart supply chain. Nowadays, manufacturers, they're trying to have an entire visibility of the supply chain. So they're working with the logistic partners in capturing all the information. And I've seen customers, and I was talking to them. So now they have a visibility that when the material has started from the previous continent, when it is in the ship, what is the lead time for them for it to land on the port, and then from port to where it comes to their.
How are you helping them on this project?
No, so they have built it on their own, but now we are helping them in more from port to actually
using RFID.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, so this is not exactly this customer, but I was talking if you want an example.
No, I was just curious.
No, I'm just saying. So there's another customer where we're helping them into more of so when an engine gets out of and it's an automotive customer. So when an engine gets out of their assembly, you put RFIDs, obviously, and then you capture the information of the entire movement of the assets from one facility to another facility, and then when it enters into another facility, it gets automatically checked into the plant, and all this process is completely automated. So there is no manual intervention. Now it seems a very small, not small, a very simple problem to solve, but it can become really very complicated if you forget, or if you where your engines are or where your assets are. And you can say that it's a big bulky asset. How can you forget it? But trust me, people have
many.
So is the future then completely software defined when it comes to manufacturing? Is that what you're saying? You used the example at the start about the train with 2.7 million lines of code compared to yesterday. Well, not yesterday, but metaphorically.
10 years back.
10 years back. And is that where it's going with manufacturing in general? Everything is going to be software defined?
Well, what I'm saying is that digital will have a big role to play in this, which makes it what's the right word for that? But it is going to make it more smarter for you. All the data and information available for you to take all the decisions using digital in various different forms, and not just, let's say, IoT, but you can digitize. Interesting thing I've seen is that even in today's world, there are a lot of things happening on paper. So when you move away from that, and we have done a very simple digitalization project. You can call it as a digitalization project, but basically you've taken paper out and you've made it more, software oriented, or just a web page oriented, and then you can see a huge change. So definitely digital will have a role in play in creating the future of manufacturing. But then apart from digital, the robotics, all those investments happening in the high tech machineries and everything is definitely going towards that. And again, when you have these high-tech machines, you have high-tech equipments with you, you also want to make use of, as I said, capture that information which is available there to make the best use of it, and to make yourself more efficient, more productive, and as we said, make the best user experience, which we were talking about the few weeks.
Yeah.
What about your views, Dimitrios? What do you think about the future?
Well, just I want to go back to the point about the paper, because I think we're talking about Industry 4.0, digital transformation, and I see, first of all, I see in the market that now almost every manufacturer start thinking, if they haven't started yet their digital journey, they start thinking, okay, how to start, with whom, with which partner, what could be the first use case, which I think it's great timing, and it's good that it's happening now and not in 10 years. So I think there is momentum in the market. But I hear customers talking about digital twins, predictive maintenance, some very advanced concepts, but today they're using paper to report when the machine is broken, or to report the productivity of the production line, which I think for them, like, what the future of manufacturing could be, how to avoid using paper. And how to be able to have real-time data from the machines without the human intervention of someone taking notes, giving a call to the warehouse or to the headquarters to report a problem or the productivity. So I think it depends. For the future of manufacturing depends on where you are today as a manufacturer. So the one category is the manufacturers who they haven't started yet their projects, and maybe they have done just few pilots which are very siloed and like here and there. And first is to be able to put some sensors in their factories, get the existing data from factories, from ERP, from SCADA systems, and try to avoid paper and automate reporting, alerts, having dashboards instead of Excel, and have more like real-time visibility. So I think this is the future of manufacturing for manufacturers that are starting
exactly
now.
So I think
then the second, I think with the more advanced, I think is like how to, customers, manufacturers are doing some projects or use cases in one factory or in another factory, different use cases. But for a manufacturer that has more than one factories, I think the future is how to create some consistency on the use cases, on the way that you structure the data, and have a central point of view, let's say for the headquarters, across the factories, to be able to ask the same KPIs for every factory, to compare the productivity,
in fact,
to understand the best practices or bad practices from one to the other, and be able to, from top down, bring the good practices. And we call it in AWS as industrial data lake, right? How to build everything and give the insights to the headquarters, but also to each plant manager or at the shop floor to give the information they need in real time or quickly or automate. So this is like distributing the insights across the group of the company and sharing with the finance team, with sales, with maintenance. I think this is the future, which we discussed about this for years, but I don't think it's very widely adopted. But we have customers like Yara in Norway. It's a huge, it's a global agricultural chemical company that they started their journey with AWS last year in order to connect all their sites and mines and have the central point of view. Or we're working with Heineken, with Coca-Cola Itzesek, one of the biggest bottlers of Coca-Cola, to achieve this vision. So I think this is like how to go from many fragmented and silo use cases in one or two factories to deploy to all the factories and have a central point of view with data lakes. And
so you touched a very important point, and that's what we call as stairway to value, right? So it's an incremental approach of moving from where you are to where you want. And this is basically the maturity curve which we talk about, right? So not every manufacturer at this point of time is at the same maturity. And in fact, not all of your plants are also at the same maturity at that point. And that's the point which Dimitrios said, that you have to identify and do it in a very, very objective way, that where you stand at this point of time. So if you're still using papers, if you're still working in a very siloed, fragmented manner, let's forget about predictive maintenance and all of these great things of Industry 4.0. Let's first eliminate those silos. Let's have the information sharing very seamlessly within the organization, within the functions which Dimitrios was mentioning about, and that's the next step. Once you have a complete information sharing happening across everybody, you have the industrial data lake built, and you have let's say overcome of these simple challenges which we call it as, but it's not as simple as it seems. Then you move it to the next step, where you kind of just create those alerts and just simple rules on your data to give you the next level of insights on that. Forget about AI ML at this point of time. Let's move step by step. Once you're at that stage where you think that yes, I've probably solved most of my challenges, it's time for me to go advanced. That's where you bring in all this AI ML and everything in your estate, and then start incrementally moving away from there. So probably my vision would be, as a manufacturer, and that's what I helped. We were helping one of the Nordics machine manufacturing companies, that once the assets is in operations, we're collecting every information from there, using that information in through our AI ML models, and then giving the insight back to the end customers about how and when the asset's going to fail, and also the remaining useful life of the asset. And that does not help you just in the production, but that also helps you in your inventory. So we act now it looks like a predictive maintenance case for you, but it actually also helped them in reducing their inventory cost by a huge amount. Because for such a critical assets, if you don't have a visibility when it's going to break, you keep on stock of inventory with you in a hub and spoke model, and then point is that inventory carrying cost is always there, right? It adds to your costs. Now, if you have a clear visibility of when's the asset, what's the remaining useful life of your asset, then you can not only look at your production, your plans, and your maintenance, and you can plan your maintenance as well. But you can also look at your inventory, optimize that inventory a lot, and that is a big saving. So
in this period that the supply chain is so disrupted.
Yeah, exactly. So probably yes. You want to arrive at that stage. Definitely, you want to arrive at that
incrementally,
stage, but incrementally.
I think it's important. I mean, fascinating views from both of you on this. But I think there's two things that sprung to mind whilst you were both talking, right? And one's quite close to home. So I've just ordered a tablet called a Remarkable tablet. I don't know if you've heard of Remarkable, but it's the fastest selling tablet you can get at the moment.
Okay.
And what it does is it mirrors writing stuff down on paper, but in a digital format, right? And so it's good for when you're reviewing documents and you can circle, etc., etc. The free-to-attend IoT Tech Expo Global is arriving on the 1st and 2nd of December at Olympia in London, with over 100 speakers and 5,000 attendees. The conference is back and better than ever, with features including an AI-powered matchmaking tool, live and on-demand sessions, and access to 4 co-located shows, including blockchain, digital transformation, AI, and big data expos. Speakers include representatives of top companies such as Arup, Lloyds Banking Group, Building Research Establishment, and many more. Visit iottechexpo.com/global to secure your free ticket. Details are in the description below. And I think the other aspect that I was thinking of when you were talking about manufacturing is, why is something, when it's handmade, sold at a premium?
Yeah.
Because you sell it on the fact that it's handmade. So I think this is a psychological and societal issue that we have. Is that to move away from paper or to move into fully software-defined and manufacturing has to be a stairway, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because we still value doing things by hand.
Right.
And that's probably one of the challenges that we face in moving into manufacturing in a completely smart context. Because we are the blocker in this.
So, sorry, Dimitrios. Another example here, and that's coming from my own real-life experience when I was on the shop floor. So, for example, once every shift closes, there's another shift which starts, and there are 2 different shift in charges, and there's a handshake which happens between both of them, where the previous shift in charge will give the next one a complete view of how the plant's running, what are the problems and things like that. And generally you have a shift logbook. So if you go to any of these manufacturers or any company where you run a shift, even the security guys, right? You always have a shift logbook which has a complete summary of what has happened in that particular shift, and then that is handed over to the next guy for his understanding that okay, what has happened. Now, if you do it on paper, there's no harm in that, but many times when you had a real bad shift, you talk about certain problems, many thousand problems, which are written over there that, okay, this machine's faulty, you need to inspect this machine, you need to go to the conveyor belt, look at the conveyor belt, there are 1, 2, 3, and 5, 10 rollers which you need to change, many things like that, right? And then it comes to me. I might address few of them, I might not, and if I miss a few of them, and when I move to the next shift, if I miss this point, I mean one of these points, which is manual, right? I mean it can always happen. Eventually you're all doing manual stuff. So capturing this information from here, and then I have to hand it over to the next shift. And many times in this handshake, you miss on very critical points. And it was just, for example, an inspection. So I told you that, hey Tom, that I see a sound coming from that machine. Just go and check if the vibration is really high or if there's a huge sound coming in, because it can become catastrophic if you ignore it. And then you had in your mind, and then you went into your shift, your routine problems and things like that, and then you completely forgot about it. And then the operator which was handling that machine, you don't know whether he did it, he did not, and then you went to the next shift and you completely forgot about it, and it's gone. And once you come in the next shift or next day in your shift, and you realize that the machine has now broken down and that line is completely stopped. Now, is it somebody's problem? No. But imagine a digital world where I have put all of these observations in a software, which is, let's say, just a simple form, and it captures all of those critical problems and put it in front of a screen in front of you, and which is already captured. And then if you have addressed this problem, you just say yes to it, and then when it comes to the next guy, he knows that it's red. Oh, sorry, it's green. It's all done. In case not, he knows that there's something to address. And it's a very simple thing.
But also with IoT, right, you can have on your tablet the information that this machine has a problem with vibration or noise, and it's reported there at the time, the problem.
Exactly.
Send alerts so someone can go, or even if they use predictive maintenance, right, with artificial intelligence, tell you, okay, in 3 days or 3 weeks, may need and call this expert to come.
We were talking about
the
IoT,
next step.
IoT making it even more advanced. So we were coming to Tom's point that even if you digitize it, just the first step, you take the first step, you've solved some of your challenges there.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
And just it is very interesting what you said about the assessment, because and what I have seen is like customers are coming and say, hey, we want to do connected factory, or we want to do predictive maintenance, but they struggle to understand what is their status today. And I think it would be nice if you say a few words about the assessment service that Hitachi is offering, because it's like, first you need to understand, even for our healthcare as people, right? We need to understand what is our blood test, what is our current status in order to correct something or improve.
Absolutely.
Or become more fit or go for Ironman. So I think it's good, and something that is missing in the market. And we start saying to the customer, like, okay, either with AWS directly with our professional services, let's do an assessment of your current status. Like, do you have connectivity in the factory? Do you collect any data from your machines? Is it do you use Excel or like? And then do you have the people to run the machines or the digital? Like, understand where you are today, so we can tell you, or the partner, what are the best next steps. So in 4 weeks, 4 months, to have and to reach some milestones.
I mean, I'll take the doctor's analogy over here, right? So when you go to a doctor, you don't tell him about what the medication you want. You just tell him the symptoms, right? So I think that's an analogy, right? So when we go with a manufacturer together, we talk about the symptoms, right? Let's talk about what are the symptoms, what are the problems there, and then once we know the problems and we know those critical issues or challenges we're facing, then we'll create that roadmap, solutions, whatever you want to call it as, to solve the challenges. Most of the time we don't start at that stage, as Dimitri was saying, that many times customer probably they've gone to the events or things. I mean, some of them they've done it in a very structured way and they know what they want to achieve. Some of the times they say that I want to do predictive maintenance, and then you get into a workshop and say, all right, you have the machines which emits data now, connectivity. I mean, so there are many things which they haven't thought about at that point of time, and some of the times that's also not your problem which you want to address. Probably your problem lies somewhere else. So what we start, and a typical way to start with a customer is obviously sit down, let's get into a workshop, let's understand the problems. If possible, let's have a factory walk also, because we have seen it in many other manufacturing customers as well. We've walked into different factories, something which is producing steel or sometimes automotive or sometimes chemicals and whatnot. So we know very, very different things which we have seen happening in the customer, and we can always point it out. I mean, yes, you know your factory much better than us. There's no doubt about it. But we do carry certain best practices from one industry to another, which always is helpful to talk about in a conversation. So point is, let's go back, let's step back, start from that traditional why analysis, right? Which we always used to say, what's the problem, arrive at that root cause, and then start working towards it. And then the assessment comes into play, is that okay, are the machines ready? If not, then how do you make them more connected? If as you said, people, and then all of those things. So that all comes as part of assessment, where we can help you to understand where you are, and then how the vision should look like moving forward from there.
And I think there's an element of the manufacturer being comfortable going up the staircase to more software defined, because at each step there's a certain level of how would you say new world, right? Doing things in a different way, not using the paper, not using the Excel spreadsheet, and going to another stage. And do you find that sometimes with some customers that you could probably take them much further,
right?
But they don't want to go there yet.
And we have built something together with Hitachi actually to facilitate this journey, especially at the beginning, and especially for customers who are not who are maybe new in the use case or new in the digital journey. And what we have done is, after the assessment, hopefully they want the assessment because it's very important. We know which are the most common use cases in the market, like for production monitoring, like connecting few machines to understand the productivity, alerts, having dashboard, avoid paper. This one use case. The other is energy optimization, that now is becoming so popular because of the energy cost and also because of sustainability. And the third one is about track and trace. So we took the most common use cases and played also with the expertise of Hitachi, and we built some pilot offerings that have a very fixed scope.
Right.
And
low investments.
They can be delivered in a fixed time. So you need to say the confirmed numbers, but in few weeks to deliver to connect, let's say, 4 machines, and so you create the dashboard, connect the machines, or do energy monitoring for these 4 machines, and the cost could be 30K, 40K, something like that. Depends always on the what is the assessment, the result of the assessment of the factory. And by this way we try to reduce the uncertainty and the perceived risk for the manufacturer, knowing that this will be the small investment you need, and this is the expected outcome you should expect after a few weeks, and show them what is the art of possible just from few machines. And if this goes well, our main stakeholders in the customer side, they can present this use case and examples to the headquarters or to the CFO, to other people in the company, and invest to full production scale. But this pilot, we have defined it to be scalable. not to be, the classic story, many pilots that do not scale. And be quickly to be able to scale in the full production in one factory and from one factory to the other factories of the customer. And this is, we start seeing traction in the market.
Right.
And instead of talking about very futuristic ideas, we always talk about the vision, where you should be aiming to go, but we say, okay, these are some recommended first next steps that you can take and start your journey.
Yeah, and that seems a logical way of doing it, almost like a proof of concept, moving across to pilot, and then multiple pilots to give confidence that it can work at scale before you roll it out wide. And I assume that's a common way of doing it with some customers.
Improve it in a few weeks.
Yes.
Exactly.
No need to be 1 year pilot.
Right, so prove the value. Concept's already proven, I guess. Everybody talks about Industry 4.0. So prove the value in your environment, your industry, your shop floor, that yes, it is valuable to you, and then move forward. So I think there are many terms for it, and then we call it as either fail fast, so that you do a little investment, you understand, this is something which I want to achieve, and then scale up, or just scrap it. It's not that you've invested millions on it and then suddenly you realize I'm not going anywhere. So fail fast, or start small. There are many words to say that. And interestingly, you touched about energy, which is right now, I say, the biggest problems which all of us face, not just
it's becoming, I think, the most common use case.
And
now.
it's the most common problem. So every time when I speak to a customer, they just have this biggest problem. I was speaking to a company in Ireland, and they said that their energy costs have raised from I think they talked about forecast. So in 3 years, it was going from 10 million to 31 million. And look at $21 million from where you take hits on your huge hits on your
you've got to pay for it somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So then everybody's looking at let's have some digital products or a solution built to monitor energy. Now, have you looked at energy? Yes, this is one way to do it, but you can look at just energy in multiple different areas. And I call it as a 360 view of how you reduce energy, and especially from a manufacturing perspective. So one way is obviously to start with the procurement itself. So when you procure energy, the ways where you can get it from green sources, or look at at what time you're buying it, stabilize it across the grid, which Hitachi Energy, which
Amazon is a good example, because the largest commercial buyer of renewable energy,
right,
and has committed by 2025 to be to cover all the operations through renewable energy. So it's
it's impressive.
Bold commitment, and I see also many manufacturers they're trying to do this, or I know. In Manchester, there is a small manufacturer. They have put at the rooftop all solar panels.
Yeah.
And now we're discussing getting data from the solar panels and putting also sensors to their main machines.
Right.
And trying to understand the productivity, but mainly with the goal of reducing energy.
Yeah.
And increasing efficiency for sustainability outcomes.
Yeah.
And the CEO wants to report this also on the website, to have carbon footprint, waste in real time reporting, which is quite
it is
innovative way of thinking.
Yeah. So so to the point that that's one way that you looked at the energy itself, the procurement, then you look at the consumption, because just having a visibility of your consumption, many times you don't understand that which is the machine which is consuming the most amount of energy. So then just having installing meters and capturing that information, and have standard dashboards which start giving you the consumption pattern itself, will give you a lot of insights. And then also look at it from an operations perspective. So if you improve your production efficiency, if you improve cut down on your maintenance, if you improve your quality, reduce the rework, there also you implicitly are saving a lot of energy. So don't target your energy just from let's capture the energy information, but also look at how do you bring in this productivity and efficiency in your processes, so that either you produce more in the same given period of time when you're consuming that energy, or you produce it fast and shut down if there's no demand. So in both the cases, you're actually you talked about Industry 4.0. You're bringing Industry 4.0 or all this digital backbone to help you improving efficiencies, and which is implicitly reducing your energy costs. So there, this 360 view of how do you look at your energy, right?
I think it's an important way to look at it. I mean, clearly we've got spiraling energy costs. You need to reduce them, A, because of the cost, but B, it's a good thing to do anyway to reduce energy costs.
Yeah.
Storage is a difficulty though with energy, right? So the actual storing of it, you mentioned you could get it in the night time, for instance, or what have you. But where do you store that in order to use it at the right time as well, right? And this is a big challenge for manufacturers sometimes.
No, absolutely. And nowadays we're talking about battery energy storage systems which are coming in. So when you have these lot of batteries, you create the storage systems, and then you start giving back to the grid.
Yes.
So, and I think this is what we were talking earlier, is that the traditional grid is all unidirectional, right? You generate, transmit, distribute. Now the element of giving it back to grid is coming. So making the grid bidirectional is coming into picture, and because of all of these concepts of now manufacturers trying to look at what are the ways you can use in-house. For example, if there's a huge battery element in your supply chain, you then use that and create those battery energy storage systems and start giving it back to the grid. So that sometimes offset you a lot of carbon footprint and a little bit on energy. So that's I would say a way where people are looking at. But then many times people say that we are not experts in generating energy, so let's forget about it. Let's focus on the core problem of how do I reduce it in my factory setup itself, and by looking at, as I said, look at it from all the perspectives. So how do you reduce your rework, make it first time right? How do you make sure your machines are running at a optimum capacity, not breaking down? How you can reduce your unplanned maintenance, and then obviously how you can make your production efficient, reduce cycle times, increase your capacity. So that all helps you implicitly in reducing energy costs. And then you obviously you can build in solutions and also AI/ML on your energy consumption to understand what are the digital interventions you can bring in to reduce your spend. And I mean, smart lighting, smart all of smart HVACs are all now typical use cases which you will see. But then that also helps you in a lot of reduction.
I mean, it's a fantastic time, and I asked the question, what is the future of manufacturing, and it seems to me it's a multi-step process, right? Taking people on a journey,
it is indeed.
Looking at energy, looking at them various aspects that people can take, pilots to get to that point, etc. But an exciting time and fabulous work that both you guys and your respective businesses are doing. I wanted to move on to my next point. As kind of we're nearing the end of the show today around the future progression between your businesses. So obviously AWS and Hitachi partnership. Where is this going in the future? I assume working on more projects, more initiatives, etc. together. What does that look like? Dimitrios, perhaps you can.
I can start. First of all, we're focusing on the customer. So it's how to work even closer to serve our customers, listen their needs, and then try to bring, as you said, the right solutions and deliver all of this. And also how to co-innovate with our customers, like for smart industrial machines, how we help them change the business model, machines as a service, and of course smart factories. So one is helping our customers, second, co-innovating with our customers, and third, I would say how to continue the co-innovation together to build a new industrial IoT or AI solutions together with Hitachi using AWS services, and bring something new in the market based on the customer feedback. And also how to create some more, I think, thought leadership in the market, how to make it tangible and share some good stories of how we help customers. I think these are some key elements, and we have a fully packed agenda for November. We can talk about this later with Hitachi.
Excellent.
Right, and I think probably one thing I'll add to this is I think you covered everything. It's just that earlier when we started the podcast, we talked about that we were earlier talking only to the IT people and not to the business people. and the key of such a large transformation is obviously having everybody, all the stakeholders on board. So be it IT, be it business. I mean, I think we always call it out very, very clearly that if you really want to have bring the business value and transform digitally, you need to have both the stakeholders working together from business and IT all together. And I think one of the element of the partnership is that I think AWS has a very strong hold with the digital community in an organization or a customer. Let's say we generally, and for example, I'll call it for myself. I generally connect with the business very well because I've been in the business.
Or the OT industrial.
Yes, the OT industrial, and people on the shop floor. And then when it's a tripartite, four-parted meeting, right? So when you have AWS, us, and the IT and the shop floor guys all together working towards one problem to solve, I think that's the recipe for success, and that's what we're looking forward more in the partnership. That how do we can bring all the stakeholders all together to make it really successful for our customers, to bring in that value for them rather than somebody just creating a pilot or doing.
And just to add on this, that in AWS we have some mechanisms to invite the customers in the same room, virtual or real room,
right,
and discuss about the future of their industry, their use cases, pain points, or even to use the innovation culture of Amazon with a PR FAQ, we call it, which is like to create a press release, like discuss with the customer, understand the pain points, who is the user of the service that they're going to build, and create a press release and have FAQ questions at the end. And this is how we help customers innovate. And usually we invite also the partner to have this workshop together. And from the customer side, it's not only the IT team, it's
exactly. The business teams.
Maybe the CEO, CFO, finance, marketing, right, OT, head of manufacturing, depends what is the cost company and the problem they try to solve. So this is we start seeing, before it was not so much in manufacturing, but now we start seeing many customers want to participate in this kind of workshops or in the Amazon innovation culture process, and we do this with the partners, and we're looking forward to do even more with Hitachi next year.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much. It's great to understand, and I think this tripartite relationship that you've got with your end customers, it works really well together, and you can see that there's clearly a bond here. As usual, as we come to the end of the show, we've got some quick fire questions I want to ask you guys.
I thought you asked us already, no?
No, we haven't started yet. So I'm gonna pick them out from a random list that I have in front of me. Dimitrios, what advice would you give your younger self getting into technology?
Okay, that's a nice question. First of all, don't be afraid of technology. And technology is not only for the techies or people that studied tech or technology.
As you started the show by saying, right?
Yes, and I'm saying always to my MBA students, like try to understand what are your strengths and what are your transferable skills, and see how you can add value. And of course, be open to learn and be curious. Go to events, read, watch podcasts, and all this stuff. So be brave to learn, and be also confident that you can contribute.
Excellent, thank you for that. Shashank, what is an emerging trend or technology trend at the moment that you think won't stand the test of time? Won't stand it. Whoa. That is maybe slightly overhyped.
Well, that's a very difficult question.
I think Tom has something in mind specifically.
I know.
Maybe.
I don't got I would say, kill me for this, and I assume some of the large tech companies are going to be very, very angry with me. But I mean, this is completely my opinion. I would say, so metaverse, right? So we talk about metaverse.
Yeah.
Metaverse is really nice, and it has real value in a lot of context, right? So I was reading yesterday, Hitachi itself is using metaverse, but in a nuclear context where you look at cutting your asset, or not cutting asset, disposing or dismantling your asset, a nuclear asset, and look at the impact of the radiation, because you want to save. You don't want to do it physically, but do it first in the virtual world to understand the implications, because nuclear could be real challenge. So it has a real applicability in some of the industries, maybe life sciences, pharma, but in the manufacturing world, I don't see.
You're very diplomatic, Shashank.
No, but I don't see metaverse.
I thought you mean only in industrial. You see it, but not out of industrial. No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I feel for machines, let's say. I mean, you don't probably need metaverse at this point of time. Yeah. Probably 10 years from now.
This could be another session. Let's define what is metaverse.
Yeah, exactly. This is a big value. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but there's a lot of the times that we ask these questions, most people say the metaverse.
What is the percentage, you think?
I think it's 9 out of 10 people say that.
Right.
Yeah. And you've only got to look at the news about Zuck and
No, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, it's good. I mean, it's not that it's not good, and it has its applicability. You use it, and in certain cases, it is really nice. I'm just thinking that the manufacturing world is probably not ready for it right now.
Yeah.
It would be, and it is also evolving, right? So there's 2.0, 3.0. I don't know where it stands at this point of time. I think it is constantly evolving, and it would probably, and it will bring a lot of value. Not now, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much. And in terms of socials, where can we find out more on AWS, IoT?
Yeah, on the webpage of AWS, there's AWS IoT webpage, or AWS for manufacturing or for industrial. And you can find lots of content there. Also, reInvent is coming, which is the largest AWS conference in Las Vegas, but will be also open and accessible online.
Okay.
Wow. So, and all the new services, new announcements will be shared there, and will be also many sessions around industrial, manufacturing. I know there is at least 1 or 2 with Hitachi and AWS.
Yes.
And also there will be an IoT leadership session, and many other like technical sessions or business sessions. Also customers will talk, so stay tuned. This is end of November for 1 week.
Excellent.
I recommend to register and watch it.
All right.
And feel free also to connect with me on LinkedIn, Dimitrios Spiliopoulos IoT, or follow my hashtag Dimitrios IoT.
Okay.
To see what is happening in IoT world.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dimitrios. And Shashank, how can people find out more about Hitachi Vantara?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they can. You can reach out to Hitachi on hitachivantara.com, and then you'll find us in reInvent. So if you happen to attend AWS reInvent, we are there. We're also at the Smart Expo manufacturing event in Liverpool.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, in 2 weeks. So hopefully, if the video is there before.
Yeah, come to say hi if you are in Liverpool.
Yeah, they can always come to us and see, and to connect with me personally, and to have a chat around what's happening in the manufacturing world, how you can embark on your journey. Connect me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have a chat. And also, if you want to see the work which Hitachi has done with various other customers in Europe, in North America, happy to have a chat. Just ping me, right? So that's
perfect. Guys, thank you very much, and thanks for tuning in again to the 5V podcast.
Thank you very much for hosting us.
Thanks,
and for
Tom,
the great conversation.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Tom. Cheers.
Thank you to today's sponsor, IoT Tech Expo Global. Look forward to seeing you at the conference on the 1st and 2nd of December. All details to register are in the episode notes.